Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Horn Hangouts. It's so great to see you all. Our chat has been so busy for the last half hour. It's incredible. So many of you watching tonight for an incredible Horn Hangout. I know I say it every time, but don't you think? I think they're all incredible, but they're like my babies. So of course I think they're all incredible. But tonight is especially incredible because we are hanging out together and breathing together with the fabulous Dr. Mark Almond. Dr. Mark, how are you today?
Hi, Sarah. I'm great, thanks.
It's great to see you. I was very American when I said almond. It's actually almond, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends on where you are.
And also, there are so many letters after your name that I didn't know quite how to start. Can you remember them all?
Not that I use any of them anymore, but
No, no, but tell me.
MA, BM, BCh, PhD. I think there's a few others, but I
Oh
can't
my
remember.
goodness. Well,
But I blow a piece of metal now.
you blow a piece of metal. I think you're probably the most qualified person ever to have blown a piece of metal. Our Horn Hangout world is completely lucky to have you. And I know you and I were just, we were hanging out by ourselves now for the last 20 minutes here online, and we were keeping an eye on the chat. And it's really incredible. What do you think, Mark, of all this globalness?
It's fantastic. And the thing is as well, it's like the questions people are asking are really insightful. They're great questions. So I look forward to answering some of them.
They are really, really great questions. Brendan Byrne is watching, Anna Main is watching, Celia from Hamburg, Christopher from Toronto, me, MK from Malaysia. It's 3 a.m. Stay awake, stay awake. It's worth it. Mathieu again from Norway. This is really fantastic. John in New York. John's a viola player, so he has to learn how to really breathe, right? String players need to breathe as well.
Certainly do.
It's funny because we're rehearsing the Grand Partita right now with the Berlin Phil, socially distant. I mean, Stefan Dor's like miles away. Stefan Yatsilski and Andre's over the other side. But Petrenko was saying today, he's conducting it, and he's saying today how important it is to learn how to breathe, because the best conductors breathe with the wind players, don't you think?
Yeah, well, you always appreciate a conductor that, Bruckner 4, someone that just you always want a conductor that just goes, whoomp. And it makes life so much easier.
Why is it so many of them go?
Yes, exactly. Let's just start, and they just go, oh, and something else, and you're like, always gets.
Oh, that's the best one. I was thinking about you a lot today because we had a horn quartet rehearsal and I was playing meaty low horn stuff, and I have my own questions for you today. But everybody who's watching, welcome to all of you that are on Facebook as well. It's fantastic to see you. I can see you all. Jared McCourt's watching, our tuba, one of my favorite tuba players. Steve and Giuliani. Hi, Mark and Sarah. Hi from Halifax. Tanner West is watching. Hello, Tanner. Adam Wolf. So many great friends watching today. But if you've got any juicy questions for Dr. Mark, please go over and put them on the website, because the Facebook questions go like that, and it's really hard to spot them. One very important thing today, Mark, is that we say that we're not, this is an educational Horn Hangout. And although you practice the horn a lot, you don't practice medicine anymore.
No, I made that conscious decision like 4 years ago now. I was working in hospitals for 10 years. And then, I think I finished working in a hospital on like August the 1st, 2016, and then started working in the opera over in San Francisco on the 22nd of August. So since that time, I've not been practicing medicine. So no specific medical advice. See your own physician.
No, it's like a disclaimer. We have to put this on here because it's an education. We've got a great program worked out for you today. Well, I say we, Mark's done all the work. And but Mark, what I think what's really important is that we tell everybody a little bit about you, because in England you're known as Dr. Mark. I met you, we were both playing extra at the LSO, weren't we? And,
That's right.
and someone said, oh, Dr. Mark's coming in today. And I was like, Dr. Mark? I said, is he a real doctor? Oh, yeah, he's a real doctor. He's a lung doctor. I said, well, is he real horn player as well? Oh, yeah, he just plays the horn for fun. Can you give us a little potted history of how that actually happened?
Yeah, okay, so it's a bit random, but I think I was always a bit torn between doing music and medicine. Obviously, your parents, they want you to do medicine. Who wants your kid to be a musician? So and then so I was growing up, and I sort of got good at the horn, and I was like, oh, maybe I could do this. And my parents were like, oh, maybe you should do medicine. I was like, yeah, maybe I should do medicine. That'd be the sensible thing. So I went to Cambridge to study medicine. And it was fabulous there. You know, they had so many great ensembles, just amateur ensembles. So every evening I was going out playing the horn. And then I did a few competitions here and there. And then when I was 19, I think it was, I got a call from the LSO saying, "Oh, can you come and bump in, what was it, Marla 1 and Writer Spring?"
Bump. We have to explain that because there's people assist. But a bumper is an assistant horn, but in England we say bump. So yeah.
Yeah, so
Stefan Yatzilski is watching, by the way. Hello, Stefan. He says hello to you too, and he will answer your mouthpiece question.
Oh yeah, I did ask him that. But no, I remember the moment vividly. I just played Eroica in one of the Cambridge colleges, and I was at that stage in my life when it was like, when you're young, you're like, oh, I can play everything really loud, it sounds fabulous. So I just done this Eroica, I was really happy, and then I got this answer phone message from the fixer from the LSO saying, it literally went something like, "Oh, we've got a juicy piece of work. Can you come and do it?" And I'm like, "Oh, I've got medical school, but go on, stuff it." So yeah, I went, and then I was suddenly, you know, sat next to Dave Pyatt and Maurice Murphy and Bousfield. I was like, and Tim Jones, all these legends. I was like, what's happened? And then yeah, I got the bug, went back to medical school, you know, did a bit of that, and then after I took a year out to mess around with, to trial with various orchestras and stuff, and then went back to Oxford to do my clinical training. And in my first or second year there, I was doing my obstetrics and gynecology training. And again, this is another moment I remember very vividly. I literally just delivered a baby as a medical student. When I say delivered, I mean catch. And,
you didn't have to pull, you caught.
No, it's a natural process. Valsalva Maneuver is involved in that. We'll talk about that. Yeah, I got a phone call from Nigel, the principal of the Philharmonia Orchestra, who you had on recently, and got offered the third horn job in the Philharmonia, which I went and did.
Literally after having just delivered a baby.
Yeah,
I'm sort of imagining you in your scrubs with your the nurse holding the phone, saying, you know, and you saying, "I can't talk right now. I've got to."
I think I was in the corridor. Yeah, so I went and played with the Philharmonia. I did a year there, and then you know, I left that because I really I'd done 4 or 5 years out of my medical training, and if I hadn't completed it at that point, I never would have. So I went back to Oxford, finished off there, and then worked in hospitals for 10 years, all the major London teaching hospitals, but carried on playing the horn. And then sorry, this is going on a bit, isn't it?
No, we want to know.
But
I'm going to get to the. I'm going to get to the things you've done. I read the gory stuff. We want to hear the gory stuff.
But towards the end of my training, I decided to do a PhD in obesity and pandemic influenza, which is actually quite relevant at the moment with all the COVID stuff. But that PhD was fabulous because it gave me, well, much to my supervisor's annoyance, it gave me so much time to practice the horn. So I did loads of practice and started playing properly again with the orchestras. And then my wife wanted to move over to California. And I said, well, yeah, I'll come to, I'd love to go to California, it'd be awesome, but I need a job. And I don't really want to start my retrain as a doctor again, which is what you have to do over here. So I was in my final year of training in the UK. So I looked for horn jobs and was fortunate enough to win the joint principal job at the San Francisco Opera, which I've been doing for the past 4 years now.
And now, Mark, tell us what's happening in your life.
Yeah, so I'm moving across the street to the San Francisco Symphony as their associate principal. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to starting there whenever that will be.
Congratulations. That's really amazing. Amazing. Is it, just before we get on to the lung stuff, everybody, we have the most amazing lung lesson about lungs that Mark is going to give us today. We all sort of know how to do it because we all do the same thing. We blow through a piece of metal and we get a sound out. So obviously we're doing something right, but some people are doing more things right than others. And I think that's something we can really, you know, maybe understand a bit more today. Just another personal question for you, Mark. Was it terrible, this pull of knowing so much, being a doctor, you have all these qualifications, but knowing you love the horn so much? I mean, you did both things obviously really well.
Yeah, no, it was you know, it was a nightmare actually, because it was brilliant. I had the best of both worlds. I loved medicine, bits of medicine, like acute medicine. There's nothing like it. Doing all the procedures, putting big chest drains in, assisting in surgeries.
This is what I meant. This is what Mark told me the other day. He was like, okay, I've had put chest drains in, I've done all this. It's like, sounds like Grey's Anatomy.
Well, it's brilliant though, because you get, through your medical training, you perform, you assist in amputations, heart surgeries, everything. And it's great. And there's nothing like the adrenaline of looking after someone who's acutely sick. Obviously, that sounds pretty morbid, but it's similar to doing a concert. You get that adrenaline rush. But yeah, when I finally made a decision after God knows how much training, 6 years of training and 10 years as a doctor, to go into music again, I'm sure I've made the right choice. I absolutely love it. Opera's been fabulous.
Yeah, opera's amazing. Everybody needs to play opera. Every horn player, every musician has to play opera. I miss it so much.
That's not to say though, I haven't had lots of medical issues whilst being a musician. I think musicians as a whole quite tend to be hypochondriacs. So I've had so many questions from musicians.
That's the thing. People also, you've been on tours and there's been people collapsing on stage and everyone looks at you. You've been playing in the section and people just think, well, you're a doctor, go and help them. No?
Yeah, yeah. Fortunately, that bit's only happened once. Usually it's in rehearsals or backstage somewhere. But yeah, there was one instance where I was on tour where someone collapsed right behind me at the end of Mahler 9, and the curtain came down, everything stopped. Well, actually, before the curtain came down, everyone just looked at me and says, well, you're a doctor, sort it out. I was a medical student at the time, and I was like, okay, but it was one of those nightmare moments where you imagine walking on stage like without your trousers on or something, because like standing up in front of 3,000 people and doing something which isn't playing the horn is really weird. I went back and sorted the guy out, but as soon as I went back, the side doors opened and all these Portuguese neurosurgeons and stuff pushed me out of the way.
Pushed you out of the way. You're just a horn player. There's all these questions. Ricky just said amputation is brilliant. It's not brilliant, but if somebody needs it, then that's what we need. The Bolton Symphony Orchestra said, hi, Mark, from all of us here at your old BSO horn section. Isn't that lovely?
God, I love those guys. I think I've not been back to Bolton, my hometown, for absolutely ages, but growing up in that orchestra was fabulous. Absolutely.
It's lovely that you're watching. Welcome everyone from the Bolton Symphony Orchestra. There's somebody that knows your teacher, Lester. He said he's played together with Chris Wormold, or he knows Chris Wormold, or what was the connection there?
Oh, Chris. Chris taught me the horn. He taught me since I was like 8 and stuff. But I still speak to him now after 20 odd years. Absolutely fabulous teacher and fabulous player as well. So yeah, lovely. Hi, Chris.
Lovely. Hi, everybody is watching. Really, it's fantastic. And Mark will go back and he will see all your messages in the chat. And I'm sure you'll try and answer some of the ones, won't you, Mark, that we don't get to today. I have my own questions. I'm really excited. I've got questions about a girl's lung size and also I've been asked by a friend to ask about aging lungs, not for me, of course. Also, I think we should address the COVID thing as well. But first of all, I think understanding your body really helps in understanding playing the horn. And where better to start? Because in masterclasses, I say, why do we play the horn? And people think about it. Is it to make money? No, definitely not. Is it to have a peaceful life? No, definitely not. It's because we love the sound. I think really 99% of us would say that. And what do we need to make a good sound?
Yeah.
Can we learn something about the lungs, please?
You certainly can. So should I try and share my screen with this?
That would be fabulous.
So what I've done is I've got this sort of mini lecture. I apologize if it's condescending and patronizing. Please stop me if it is, but it should be, it's pretty quick and it just takes you through the basics. So let me try and share this screen. Hold on a second. Let me know if this works. Share. Is that working?
It's perfect.
Okay, great. Let me move that horn out of the way. We don't need that.
Respiratory medicine for horn players. Right.
Yeah,
I am going to shut up unless I don't understand anything.
Very niche topic. Okay. So as I said, why do we need to know any of this? Do top professionals actually think about this when they're playing? No, it's an automatic thing. But let's take like a car analogy. So, driving a car is horn playing and the engine is breathing. You don't think about the engine when you're driving a car. It just happens. But what happens when it breaks down, if things stop working? You take it to a mechanic or a teacher. The teacher or the mechanic better know how it works. Otherwise, you're going to have problems getting it fixed. So yeah, it is about song and wind in that when you're playing, you should be thinking musically. But it's important you do have some basic understanding of it, I think, so that if things go wrong, you can address them in a sensible manner. So, bit of basic stuff. This is a skeleton. Okay, so bones. We're just going to can you see my cursor there?
Yes.
So we're just going to focus in on the middle bit here. So you've got your thoracic cage and you've got your pelvis and a spinal column here. So the curvature of the spine is really important. And I've heard a lot on your Hangouts about how important posture is. And it's so true. In fact, I'm sitting here with a dreadful posture right now. If you lose this cervical lordosis, if you hunch over or if you sag at the back, you're just really inhibiting the ability of the rib cage to open up. And so you're not going to maximize your potential lung capacities. So how do you sit properly? Well, that's a long topic and I'm not an expert in that, but a simple basic thing would be, the simple principles of Alexander technique. Was it neck free, head forward and up as if you're on a string, sitting up with a tall manner. And then if you just put your hand on your lower back before you sit down, you can feel that curve, that lumbar lordosis. And if you just bend at the knees and sit straight down, you should be sitting in the right way. Now, I know when you're playing, if you're doing a long opera or something, you feel a lot more comfortable sitting back, but that's just a learned habit, which is bad. So you should really be sitting down and maintaining these curves in your spine. So that's enough about bones. Where are the lungs? Everyone knows where the lungs are, but everyone always talks about abdominal breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, or expand the back. Your lungs are really high up. In fact, they go up above your clavicles up here. They go right up here, which is a lot higher than you think. They go up above your first rib, and then they stretch out to the side to about the 8th rib.
How big are they, Mark? How big are they? Because we saw them on the Horn Hangout heart working. Yeah. How big are our lungs? Yeah.
How big are the lungs? Well, by capacity, sort of a total lung capacity is about 6 liters. So in terms of what it can hold, that's what 3 2-liter bottles, isn't it? So that's 6 liters in a man and about 4.5 liters on average in a lady. But the shape of the lungs is also interesting because, when you think about the shape of the lungs, you see all these analogies about, well, blowing up a balloon. So people think of balloons, or if you draw a pair of lungs, people draw triangles and stuff. But they're conically shaped. But you've got to remember, in the middle of the 2 lungs, you've got a heart. So the inner surfaces, they're really concave. And also the bottoms are really concave as well. And they're thick at the back, but they actually go quite thin at the front. Anyway, so those are pictures. You've got 3 lobes on your right and 2 on your left. Okay, so that's enough about where they are.
Is that always, I'm a bit embarrassed, but is that always the case? 3 on the right and 2 on the left? Why is that?
Yeah, no, that's just the structure. That's just the lobar structure. So you got your windpipe in the middle here, your trachea, and then that breaks down into your right and left main bronchus, and that sort of splits into 2 at this point here. This notch you can feel at the top of your sternum called the manubriosternal angle, and that's where it breaks into the 2 different bits. So that's that, which brings you to the diaphragm. Now, everyone's always talking about the diaphragm, diaphragmatic breathing, and it is the most important respiratory muscle. And I think it's pretty much common knowledge that it's a thin dome-shaped sheet of muscle which attaches to the spine and the lower ribs. Just for the medical students out there, that's supplied by the phrenic nerve, which comes from your spine, spinal cord, C3, 4, and 5. And if you're a medical student, C3, 4, 5 keeps you alive. It's important to note that the diaphragm it only contracts and pulls downwards. You can't push upwards with the diaphragm. I think, again, that's common knowledge, but just to clarify, you cannot push with the diaphragm.
It's common knowledge, but it's sort of like people often don't know what it is. A lot of people, I think it's so important as teachers, especially, and a student, you just have to know how this works, because you might have someone coming to you with a problem, and you say, use your diaphragm support, and you just get this look as if like, okay, what's that?
Well, exactly. And I think there's a lot of danger with telling students how they should feel. These are subjective sensations that teachers feel themselves, and they're trying to impart those to other people. So we should really focus on the end point, which is the airflow, which we'll come to a little bit later. But the diaphragm, when you're breathing quietly, it only goes down by 1 centimeter. 1 centimeter. So that brings us to, this is an interesting thing, which you should be interested in, having done your MRI scans, the mouth. So again, you see lots of people on videos here and there using tubes or straws to sort of open the throat up to
breathing
get a good
bags, golf balls, all sorts of things.
Yeah, and the focus of using the small tubes is to open up your throat. But you can do that, and I think they're great. If you're having problems, they're really good. But you can sort of do it on yourself. If you just put your tongue to the back side of your lower teeth, that lowers your tongue and opens up that space, as if you'd eaten some sweet corn and you've got a bit of corn stuck in the bottom of your teeth and you're trying to pick it out with your teeth. If you put your tongue down there, keep it low, it opens everything up immediately.
Can we try that together? So you put the tongue down, you flatten the tongue.
Flatten the tongue and put it behind your lower teeth at the front.
And then you go, oh wow,
yeah.
that really
and
does.
It just immediately open things up. So I think a lot of people do the finger breathing, and I think that's great. I think it's great. I think that works fabulously, but I think this works as well. So you want to keep your oral cavity as open as possible on the inhalation, because that will really help, because it minimizes resistance and friction, and that gives you the feeling of an open throat. So what happens when you're actually breathing? So there are 2 types of breathing. There's quiet breathing at rest, which is what you're doing now. And then there's exertional breathing, which is what you need for horn playing or if you're doing exercise. And the 2 mechanisms really differ. So when you're breathing quietly, your brain does it automatically. It sends signals from your ventral respiratory group in your brainstem down to your external intercostal muscles, which are in between the ribs. They run down and forwards. And so when they contract, it lifts your ribs up and out. And people say it's in a sort of a bucket handle motion. So that expands your chest in an anterolateral direction.
Hang on, bucket handle motion. I'm just trying to imagine that. So
yeah, so if you've got a handle on a bucket, it sort of comes up and it goes out. So it increases the anterior dimensions of the thoracic cavity and also the lateral dimensions. And then also your phrenic nerves send signals down to the diaphragm. And as I said, inhalation in quiet breathing is an active process, i.e. muscles contract, your external intercostals and your diaphragm. Now, exhalation or expiration in quiet breathing is a passive process. No muscles are involved. It's just muscles relaxing. Your lungs are elastic tissue. They contain collagen, fibrin, elastin, and they've got lots of surface tension because of the liquid in there. And the lungs just want to collapse. They want to go like that. And so when you let go of the tension from the diaphragm and the external intercostals, the lungs just collapse on themselves, and that elastic recoil is enough for you to breathe out. So that's passive. Now, that's no good for horn playing, because you want to play the short call, and you try to do that, and you get to the last note, and it just goes. There's not enough airflow there, not enough pressure. So that brings us to active or exertional breathing. And this requires different muscles. So take a deep breath in. And if you just let it go, the lungs collapse again. You've got that elastic recoil. But if you take a deep breath, and then blow out against your hand, and keep a really constant flow, and just keep it going until you feel sort of some abdominal discomfort or tension. What you're feeling there is at the top, the external intercostals are acting as brakes on the elastic recoil of the lungs. So you're controlling the airflow. So those are acting as a brake. And then your abdominal muscles, which are down here, your rectus abdominis, external oblique, internal, and your transverse abdominis, those are contracting, and those are pushing in on your abdominal organs, which are pushing them up and forcing the diaphragm up, and that's what's giving you that.
It's a sort of, it's a squeeze feeling. I find, like, in Mahler 1, the beginning of Mahler 1, first and second horn. If you've got a nasty conductor, it'll ba da 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 da, and everyone's trying to say the da 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 da, and there things start to squeeze, because you're out of air. So but I have the feeling things are closing in on me when I squeeze.
Yeah, well, it's your body's automatic reaction to you're keeping a constant airflow, or you're increasing the airflow to get those higher notes, and it's just your body doing it automatically. And that's the key thing. If you just concentrate on the airflow and keeping it constant at whatever speed you require, whether it's a high note or a low note, your body does it automatically. So there's lots of talk about, you should have a really, the rigid gut sort of theory. I should be able to punch you in the stomach and it should be rock hard. But anything like that is just, you're inhibiting flow and movement, which is required. If you want to squeeze the air out of your lungs, you need to contract your abdominal muscles. If you've got rigid abdominal muscles, that's not going to work for you.
No, but there's that moment, Mark, when you're running out of air and you've still got some air in there somewhere. That's when I know there's some sort of reserve in there.
Oh yeah, but that's
not a painful squeeze. That's sort of like literally looking for the air where I still have it.
Yeah, but that's your abdominal muscles doing what they need to do. That's not you starting a phrase and going and squeezing down, because you're just going to end up Valsalvaing,
Valsalvaing. We're getting to Valsalva. That when we get to Valsalva, I mean, this one myth that I was told by quite a few male teachers when I was studying was that this feeling of pushing down like you're on the toilet, like that, and that will give you good support. I couldn't get any air in at all if I did that.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing as well. And when I was a bit younger, I went for a couple of lessons with someone, and they were focusing. They would keep telling me to expand your back, expand your back, expand your back, and I was it totally messed my breathing up because I wasn't focusing on airflow. Ian Bousfield always he says it's about blowing.
He's watching.
Oh, is he?
Watching, yeah.
Oh, fabulous. Well, he's done some fabulous things on YouTube and stuff. And he would say it's about blowing, not breathing. And it's so true. If you focus too much on where the air is going, you're just going to end up in a mess. So that brings me to breath support. What is breath support? What is breath support? This girl's doing a great job of what you should be doing, which is maintaining a constant airstream. And I think Arnold Jacobs in his books talks a lot about this. It's about concentrating at the airflow at the lips. And she's doing a great job because those bubbles, they're sort of about the same size, they're evenly spaced apart. And if you just do that, blow on your hand, keep it going as long as you can. You feel the change from the brakes of your external intercostals to the pushing or the tensing of the abdominal muscles, and you get this controlled release of air. And I
hope everybody's doing that right now. I'm imagining all the Horn Hangout friends just going and just observing what is happening, because it's so useful. Horn playing of course we have to play high and low and get lots of air in and get lots of air out, but actually basically the easier you make it for yourself, the more easier your life will be as a horn player. None of this, because then your throat tenses up and then your sound goes and you've had it.
Yeah, and I've put on this picture as well. I've put some batteries down here, some DC batteries. Why have I done that? Because when you're blowing out, it's like you're taking a very flat wave, a power, and you've got to transfer that wind power into sound power. And that happens, that change from a DC current to an AC current happens at the lips. And if you don't keep a constant supply to that, then the whole system just dies down. So you need to be like a battery, just keeping a constant flow. Obviously, you know, you turn up the flow or you slow it down depending on where you are in the range, etc. But there always needs to be flow over the sort of the control oscillator, which is the lips. So don't teach muscles, teach about airflow. Oh yeah, now this is another great. Now this is
that's a COVID. That's a lockdown photo.
That's not me. That's just to clarify. Now pseudo expansion. Now this is an Arnold Jacobs phrase, which I really like. There are so many ways to pretend you're taking a deep breath without doing it. You know, the top photo. You can stick your belly out without taking any breath at all. I'm not gonna get up on camera and show.
I'm sticking mine out.
I'm not going to show my quarantine belly. Yeah, but you can push it out without taking any breath in, and that's your pelvic floor muscles helping with that. You know, you can shrug your shoulders. You can shrug your shoulders. You can do all sorts of actions, and which like make you think you're taking a big breath, but you're not. And also, if you tense your abdomen, which people say the rigid gut, you're not blowing any air out. If I tense my abdomen now, no air's coming out in addition to what's normally coming out for me to speak. So yeah, this fabulous Arnold Jacobs phrase, breathe to expand, don't expand to breathe. I think that's really important. Someone you might know.
My boss, my ex-boss.
So I'm sure he would never do this, but isn't it great? Every horn player knows this. When you get a conductor and they're like, oh, let's go from figure whatever. And they go 3, 4, and you take your breath. And then they go, oh, and one other thing. And you're like, ugh.
Every conductor does that.
That's what the Valsalva feels like. And the Valsalva maneuver is fabulous for certain things, like, you know, if you're having a baby, it's very good. It's good. It's used for expelling foreign objects.
Mark, sorry, could you just explain what exactly it is?
Of course, yeah. So you take a deep breath, and then rather than just blowing it out, you close your glottis, and then you apply pressure. And so you're applying pressure against a closed glottis. Now that's great for supporting. If you're doing heavy weightlifting, that's really good for like core support. Now, and I can explain another way. See this tennis player, I put her there for a reason. So people talk about the backswing with breathing. Now, it's okay if you take a breath, so, and hold it there, you can hold it there, and that's fine, and then you can blow out. And you don't have to close your glottis to do that. You can take a breath and keep an open throat and then go back out. But the Valsalva maneuver is literally like taking a backswing, but then getting your other hand, putting it there and pushing against it. And see how much tension that creates. That's what the Valsalva is, in effect.
It's tension here, here, everywhere.
Yeah, so that's why people say avoid the Valsalva. And also, you know, anything that really increases your abdominal pressures, you know, you get problems in later age with hernias and prolapses and all sorts of things. So
there are some people that really struggle with this. They get a sort of block, you know, and I've had teachers say before, take a breath and then wait and then play, you know. That never ever worked for me. I could always only take a breath in the rhythm of whatever I was playing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally. I understand. I think you can take a breath and you can breath hold without Valsalvaing. And there can be some value. If you want to know what a full breath feels like and to help stretch things out, you can take a really full breath and hold it for like four beats before you let it out without Valsalvaing. You can do that. And some people teach that. And I'm not here to say, oh, you shouldn't have a pause before you play something, because I think everyone to some degree does sometimes. If you've got a really pearly high entry, some people do have a little pause, you know, understandably, just to change things. But you just need to be aware of it and make sure you're not doing it at inappropriate times.
Yeah. Well, I think we've all learned a new word today, Valsalvaing.
Oh yeah, Valsalvaing. I'm not sure that word actually exists, but you know, let's pretend it does. Let's pretend it does. Oh yeah. So
Hang on. You're
Oh,
going past
okay.
the one I was supposed to ask for a friend, or should we come back to that?
No, we can come. Well, I was thinking we could talk a little bit about exercises you can do, both away from the horn and with the horn to help with your breathing, and then we can talk about the depressing thing of aging.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Okay, so, well, for teachers, again, what should I teach about breathing? If I don't want to mess someone up and overcomplicate a natural process, how do you do it? Keep it simple. So inhalation, okay, get the tongue out of the way, minimize noise and friction. And I'm not suggesting people do this for when they're playing, but it's really hard to muck up a slow nasal breath. That's why they do it in yoga all the time. You can get a really full feeling, and you can't expand your chest without getting air into it. So it's just something. If you can feel the upper part of your chest expanding, you're getting air in there. So a nasal breath is really good for just simplifying everything, and it's really good for relaxing you as well.
It's a good trick on stage if you're feeling
totally.
a little bit. Wah.
Yeah, totally.
Nose breathing is great.
Yeah, nose. Yeah, and it's the exhalation that slows your heart rate down and chills you out before that, pearly high entry. Again, with teaching, inhalation, avoid phrases like stick your belly out, expand your back. That just confuses people, in my humble opinion. Exhalation, again, if you're having problems, start away from the instrument. If you're having problems, I think I'm a huge fan of this blowing notes on your hand and getting used to what it feels like. And the student should learn what it feels like. For them to blow a fast airstream, it feels different in your belly as opposed to playing a really low, slow note, and you should get used to how it feels and changes between up here and your abdomen. But don't teach the students their subjective sensations. And again, avoid phrases like push from the diaphragm, tense your tummy muscles, support your breath, because people think support holds something up. And yeah, they mean don't let the airstream sag, but support also has all these physical sort of implications, which I think can complicate things.
But when a lot of students say to me, where is my support?
Where is your support?
Yeah.
Well, the technical answer is the support is from your abdominal muscles. But then people will tense their abdominal muscles, which they don't need to, because it happens automatically. So if they focus on the sound and keeping a constant stream, then that's what your body does what it needs to do. So a couple of breathing exercises. So I don't do this. I should do it. I don't do it all the time. I wish I did, and then I wouldn't have shoulder problems.
But, Mark, it's also something I feel if people play and they're doing this right, they're doing these exercises every day anyway, aren't they?
That's the thing. Again, I think this is more for people who are having problems with breathing. I've had students come in and they just are paralyzed by breathing. I'm like, and then people are paralyzed by the complexity of the horn. They see all the valves and all the tubing and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's just you blowing air through a mouthpiece into a tube, and you need to simplify everything if you've got a problem. I remember when I was teaching medicine, if I had an incredibly complicated topic like, the classification of idiopathic interstitial lung disease, which is really complicated.
Pardon?
Yeah, exactly. It's complicated. I'm going to avoid that question, which I've seen on the chat, and that's a really hard one. If when you're teaching medicine, you want to simplify everything, and you start with the absolute basics. I always say it's like teaching. It's about like a tree. So if I've got a really complicated topic, I'll start with the trunk of the tree. And then I'll add a layer of complexity. I'll add the branches, then I'll add the twigs, and then I'll add the leaves to get the full topic. And I think if you've got problems, you need to go back right to the basics. So, you want to get rid of anything that impinges your thoracic cavity. So stretch your shoulders, stretch your chest, You know, they're really good to do. I see loads of string players. You see string players all the time doing this against the wall.
I do that now too, because I had really bad tendonitis in my wrist. So I do that before I play. By the way, can I just say a big shout out to Gail Williams, who's watching, who's one of the best breathers, blowers I have ever met. This tiny little wonderful lady who can just breathe better than any of us. So hi, Gail.
Well, I'd love to chat to her about all the Arnold Jacobs stuff at some point. You know, I really would.
Definitely should. We'll have both of you on, I think. We'll have that's part 2.
So after stretching,
nasal breaths.
So yeah, again, if having problems, just at the start of your session, just some slow nasal breaths up to what you feel is really full. You can't mess it up, and then just either let it go, or blow against your hand at constant speeds, different speeds. Feel the different levels of muscular involvement.
Should we blow like the little girl with her bubbles? Should we go? Or should we go with a tense? You know, what's good, to pretend to be an embouchure, or to just go?
Well, you practice. I think. Well, you know, the embouchure provides a level of resistance which is important. But I wouldn't. You're there to get your breathing muscles working and getting to the rhythm, so that when it comes to the embouchure, it just works. So I wouldn't bother sort of trying to form an embouchure. I would just focus on either a fast stream or a slow stream, or something in between, like you're going to play a piano note, a forte note, fortissimo note, a high note, low note, and just focus on keeping it constant, or deliberately always have a deliberate shape to what you're doing. So don't let a note just waver in and out. Say, okay, well, I'm going to do a constant note, and your airflow is totally constant and you feel it pushing. Or you go, well, you know what? I'm going to do an egg note. I'm going to go get louder, but I'm always going to taper it. But never just be lazy when you're doing it. Never just go. You can't be lazy when you're doing this. Once you've done that, you can do some slow oral breaths with a low tongue. So just like in for 3, out for 3. You can add breath holds if you want to, but I don't tend to do that. And then again, there's an Arnold Jacobs exercise I've seen. Sorry, Gail, if I'm saying this totally wrong. But you know, breathe out for 4 beats, and then in on the last beat, and then do the same thing, but down to. Hold on, I'm confused now because I'm in America, so I'm going to say 8th note.
Quadrants and quavers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then 16ths or triplets, etc. It's important as well. Don't let your tongue chop up the airstream. It's really important. Or tongue stopping, some people call it. So when you're blowing out, don't go. It's actually hard to do it to be heard, but don't blow out and chop the air off with your tongue. It's important. It just sort of flicks the air.
It sounds like this, like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Devices. I've mentioned devices. Like you can buy all sorts of devices. You don't need them, but again, I like the breath builder one, which is the one with the little tube with a ping pong ball. I like that because it helps you open up things and blow off the cobwebs, and you can visualize it, but keep it clean, otherwise they get disgusting after a few months. Oh, now this is a good cheat. I've nicked this phrase, although this phrase is described in many, many books. So I've got it here. So in Dale Clevenger's book, like it's a red book. I think it's like his beginning exercises for the horn. He talks about this. Gunter Schuller's book. James Morrison talks about this. Ian's mentioned this on his videos, and this guy, Bill Caballero, who's a fabulous principal horn of Pittsburgh, he talks about cleansing and tanking. So what is this? This is a cheat to get a really relaxed breath. It's not a bigger breath, but it makes you feel like it's a bigger breath. And that's one of the things with breathing. It's not all about physiology. There's a lot of psychology involved as well. So what you're looking at here with this little chart is a tracing from a spirometer. When you breathe in normally, in and out, that's your tidal volume, they call it. So just a normal breath, and that's about 1/2 liter. So when you're playing the horn, you're just breathing normally. You've got an entry, and then you take a deep breath, and you go up to here, which is the top, the total lung capacity, and then you blow out, and you've got all this bit here to play with. This is your vital capacity, and then you go back to doing a normal breath. Now,
So we only use our vital capacity when we're, I mean, the other bits are just the resting, you know, or if you're nervous, then it might go up a bit probably, but our vital capacity, what happens if you're playing like constantly on maximum capacity? Is that very
well,
bad for you?
no, it's not. It's not bad to take deep breaths. It's great to take deep breaths. But if your breathing's jittery and you've got a scary solo coming up, what I do sometimes is I blow out first. So you start from a resting state. So this, the line here, which I'm highlighting here, this is your resting state. If you blow out first, I go, you feel this tension down here. That's your abdominal muscles tensing. But then take a deep breath. And you get this huge relaxed breath.
And remember what Mark said earlier on. If you've just joined us, then we've got a fantastic tip, and that is to lower your tongue again. Press your tongue against the bottom teeth, but lower it like like that, and your breathing will never be labored again. It just makes everything so open and so dark.
You can't take a high breath by doing that. And people talk about having a cool sensation of air along the bottom of your tongue. And if you flatten your tongue, I can't do it wrong. So this is a cheat. So if you've got a long phrase to do or a scary solo, if you breathe out first and then it's just a huge relaxed breath. And psychologically, it's not a bigger breath. You know, you've still got the same vital capacity to play with, but you're starting from down here and you're using the natural elastic recoil of your chest wall to help you take that big breath. So that's why that works. And that's why so many great brass players sort of use that or have written it down in a book somewhere.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Great tip.
And then exercises with the horn. Again, you don't really need to do specific exercises, but if you've got you need to be disciplined with your breathing when you're playing. You know, it's very tempting when you've got a horn lyre, just pick up your horn and just noodle, just play anything. But you know, if you've got problems with your breathing or things aren't quite working, you should start everything in rhythm for everything with a low tongue. Even your beginning noodles, you know, you do your stamp exercises or your Clark exercises, and then end each note, especially for the start of your session, just end everything with either a constant note, so you get this beautiful constant flow of air, or a nice tapered note, so you get that feeling of control.
I love that, Mark. That's a fantastic way, because I start actually every single day with the stamp exercise. You know, the one that the trumpet players like to da 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 with the bend da 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 da. And I just find it's so important to have the throat open and to end on a beautiful note rather than you know, that doesn't help the air really.
Exactly. And also what I find with a lot of students as well is that people are incredibly lazy. Like you ask them to say, can you play a scale C major? And they go, bom, bada, 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 bom, bada, 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 bom. I mean, like, that's useless. You know, it should have a decent tone, but you should always end everything beautifully, because it really helps with your breathing. And again, if you're emptying out and going towards that residual volume, then you take a more relaxed breath in next time. Yeah. Other things you can do, you know, playing on the F side, flutter tonguing, because that's another vibrating surface to keep the flow moving over. Gunter Schuller, his long tones, he's got an exercise. I think actually Stefan Jezewski, he in his warm-up with you guys, I think he had that actual exercise where you play a minim, then you blow out for a beat, and then you breathe in again. Minim, blow out, breathe in, and then a whole tone. Creepy chromatics. So this is a Jeff Bryant exercise, which is absolutely fabulous. I like exercises which, if you're doing them right, you're breathing right, you can't mess them up. So this is just really simple, playing chromatic scales, but starting them with sort of semitones. So da 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 da. Sorry, I never thought I'd have to sing on this. Dreadful singing, I apologize. But to get that change between those semitones, if you've got a good airflow, if you're playing it smoothly, you can't be messing up your airflow. It's got to be correct. And again, with natural harmonic exercises, people do those. Okay, people do it for embouchure, but if it's smooth, your air's working. You do it, you can't muck it up. You know, if it sounds right, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
And then one final thing, subdivision as well. If you've got long phrases, if you do legato tonguing, it just helps you, it helps reinforce the constant nature of the airflow. Sorry, lots of ranting there.
No,
sorry.
it's fascinating. You're getting, I mean, so many people are writing. Simon D'Souza's watching. Beth Randall is watching. Yeah, there's this Joe Meeran from the DSO is watching. There's really a lot of really great horn players out there, all saying it's fantastic. There's just a quick question. Let's get on to the what did you just have? Healthy. You had another something.
Oh yeah, just some tips for healthy lungs.
Yeah, because Henry's just asked, what about smoking and horn playing?
No,
don't do it.
Just no. It's like, I understand people smoke for stress and for enjoyment, but just no, you can't. I know loads of horn players smoke. But you can't do it. No. You shouldn't do it. I have looked after so many people who have died from smoking related lung diseases, and it's horrible. And it's sort of, and if you stop the rate of decline in your lung function, so if you're smoking, your lung function is going down like that. Okay, if you stop smoking, you really slow the gradient of that decline. When we talk about aging, your lungs lose elasticity as you get older. And if you're smoking, you're just destroying your lung tissue and increasing your chances of lung cancer. So, the amount you can blow out in a second, which is a really important thing you need for horn playing, it gets destroyed. So you don't notice it when you're young, you're smoking in your 20s, 30s, 40s, but then, you hit your 50s and you're like, oh, I'm a bit out of breath. And you hit this symptomatic level, and you hit it a lot sooner. Most people don't hit it because they don't smoke and they're healthy and stuff. But if you're going to hit it, and horn players, aging has its own issues. You don't want to make it worse with smoking. So stop
Amen.
it.
Thank you, Mark.
And there's lots of help. If you need help stopping smoking, just see your physician. There's tons of help available.
Great. Thank you for that. There's a question about asthma that's come in as well. Asthma and horn playing, how that must be really tough to deal with that, and be a good horn player as well.
Well, I think there are lots of brass players out there with asthma, who, you would never know they had asthma from how they play their instruments. I think, number one, you've got to make sure all the pharmacological treatments for the asthma are optimized. And you need to make sure they actually have a diagnosis of asthma and it's not something else. It's not being misdiagnosed, because there is a lot of overdiagnosis of asthma. But if you do have asthma and you're on the correct pharmacological therapies, then breathing exercise, and you're still not controlled, breathing exercises can be really good adjuvant therapy to add on to that. And it's fabulous. If you play the horn, you're playing long tones, and exercise and breathing is fabulous sort of physiotherapy for your lungs.
Good. Okay, so that might be a new therapy to actually put on the medical insurance. Oh
yeah. Buy me a new horn, please.
Okay, what have we got? How are we doing with your? How are we doing? What have we got still? We've got some.
We got a bit of aging. You wanted to talk about differences between ladies and gents.
That's right. I've got some questions for you. But can you go back? Is this the end of this bit?
Yeah, that's the end of this bit. I've got some aging lungs.
The tip for healthy lungs. Well, I think we just
covered
one of those. Where was that?
Oh, there you go. Tips for healthy lungs. Don't smoke. Yeah. Don't smoke.
Yeah.
This is all common sense stuff, but avoiding where you can, avoid exposure to pollutants, both indoor and outdoor. Just for the really nerdy horn people out there that like to buy horns, do them up, strip the lacquer from horns, just be really careful. There's aircraft stripper, which people use to get rid of lacquer from horns. It's really toxic stuff. And if you're going anywhere near that, you would do it in a really well ventilated space and use a proper respirator, because it's nasty stuff. Prevent infection, obviously at the moment, wash your hands, masks at the moment. But it's really important. Avoid infection. Exercising. both aerobic, but also, you want to, as you get older, your muscles decline and your posture gets worse. You tend to hunch over. So if you are going to the gym and doing exercises, chest exercises, rows for your back, just promotes good posture so you can maximize the potential of what you have.
There's another tiny little secret that you don't even have to exercise for. Put your shoulder blades back. Try it.
Yeah, no, totally.
Everybody's sitting up. I can see you're all sitting up straight.
Exactly. Your interscapular muscles. Everyone, loads of people just go, but yeah, as soon as you do that, but you don't want to be when you're playing though. Don't be like, oh, that's going to help. No. Just creates all that tension. Proper diet, drinking water, obviously. Make sure your weight's okay, because adverse weight can affect things. And just get checked out every now and then, as everyone should. So that's that really.
Can we just mention the C word right now, of course, and your speciality was actually you specialized in
I did pandemic flu.
Pandemic flu, which is actually quite a topical thing right now. We're all doing our very best, and I hope none of you who've been sick with the dreaded corona. How would it affect our lungs? And it might be good for, I know here in Berlin things are getting back to normal, a new normal, wearing masks in shops and on the trains and everything, but people are still getting you see them outside on the street, everyone's sort of forgotten that there was something terrible that happened and still could happen. So totally. It might be good if you actually helped us to understand the severity of this.
Okay, so it is, everyone's bored at home. Everyone wants to go back to work. People need to work for money and everything, and I don't want to get into the politics of that, but COVID or the SARS-CoV-2 viruses can be absolutely devastating. Most people who get it, some people don't know they've got it. Some people just get over it very quickly and just have rest at home or have a couple of days of feeling under the weather. But it's killed so many people, and it can be pretty devastating. Like, people think as I say, people think there is a misconception, I think, that a ventilator if you go on a ventilator, you'll come off a ventilator and it'll cure you. But it's not like that. If you end up really, really sick on intensive care with COVID, it's because your lungs are going to be full of inflammatory infiltrates, which then becomes scarred, and you end up with all sorts of complications. And so even if you do manage to get off the ventilator, which certainly isn't a guarantee, then you can be left with really bad morbidity for a long time. So people should really still be taking this very, very seriously. Wash your hands, masks, social distancing, really, really still very important.
Thanks, Mark, especially for everybody, but especially for our horn playing. Can you go back to the aging one? I've got while you're scrolling, I've got a few questions that have been coming in. Also, ones I've wanted to know that we can maybe get to quickly when we get off your
sure,
aging lung. Now that is exactly the thing. Now, having just gone back to sort of work, not full-time work, I'm dying to play a Bruckner Symphony or something, but we are rehearsing for the horn quartet for a special event, which I'm going to tell you about at the end of this. I'm playing fourth horn, and there's a very special piece that's coming as well, a world premiere, and I couldn't get the air in that I was just like, God, am I getting old? What's going on? And I was a bit worried about this. So I asked Mark about it. Mark said, don't worry. He just thinks I've got a little bit, lazy. I'm not getting old. But it can happen, can't it? If I haven't played that loud and I haven't needed that much air.
Yeah, I just think, where's that? Yeah, I just think that if you, and again, I think this is something for practice rooms as well. If you're in a practice room, you don't project as if you're filling, a big concert hall. So you'll take a breath and you'll cut off here, and you'll go to here. And so, the extremes of your lung expansion, you don't quite reach, and it takes a little while to maybe blow the cobwebs off. So I think maybe, as a practical thing for people who are experiencing that, blow out first, get used to that, and just take the relaxed breath, and then you'll gradually get back up to.
But it's something that does have to be practiced, because I have the feeling I've lost a bit of that ability, and I need to train it again. Now, today we had another rehearsal, and I felt a bit better. So it gets better the more you do it. But it was quite a shock to see how much of my body had sort of not forgotten how to do it, but got a bit rusty, the old lungs.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like when you're practicing a concerto, you practice it in your bedroom or in a practice room for ages, and you thought, oh yeah, I can nail this, yeah, no problem. Then you step out on stage, and you're like, whew, this is hard work, because you're just not used to projecting in that, which is why it's so important to practice in big spaces. You just don't get used to that projection.
So that was just that's just because I'm out of practice, not because I'm getting old. Can we go back to the aging thing? Because a lot of people have asked about this.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's really it's good for young and old and middle and everybody to know about what can happen, because we mustn't take our lungs for granted.
Okay, so the depressing news. Okay, so your lungs are developing up until your sort of early 20s, 20, 25. That's when they're developing. They mature by then. After 35, things start to decline, which is depressingly early, isn't it, really?
Very early. I don't like that.
And in a person with healthy lungs, that decline is mainly due to cardiovascular and muscular changes, not changes within the lungs themselves. But as you get older, your diaphragm weakens, your rib cage stiffens, and there's this picture at the top here. These are called alveoli, which are the functional units of the lung, and the tissue between them gets destroyed or disappears, degenerates with age. So remember I said that the lungs have this elastic recoil, and they just want to collapse in on stuff. That's what helps force air out. So if you lose that elastic recoil, then you get a bit of air trapping when you get a bit older as well, because you can't get all the air out. Your cough gets weaker as you get older, which makes you sort of more susceptible to infections. Your immune system gets a bit weaker. So, it's important to get your vaccinations when you're older.
Man, everyone's complaining. Matthew just said, say I'm 35, say it isn't so. And Emily Salzburg said she didn't even start playing the horn till she was 35. So we're all feeling rather past it.
But if you're healthy, I said, if you're healthy, you won't notice these things. These are just like, I'd sort of say, basically your lungs sag and your muscles atrophy, yippee. But it's just, you don't notice it. But if you smoke, you'll hit a level where you do notice it, yeah, sorry, that's a bit depressing.
That is very depressing. What while we get older, is there anything, what can we do? Is there any tip? Is there any?
Just those, just looking after yourself. That's all you can do. As I said, doing a bit of strength training for your chest and shoulders just to maintain posture helps you maximize what you already have.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Mark, is a really important question now as a girl, because I think Stefan and I can't remember when it was, but our lungs were sort of tested at some point, and yeah. Stefan ended up with I can't remember, 5.9 something. And when I had my lungs tested, it was 3.4, and I was quite shocked. Mary-Louise Neunecker had I don't know, she had about...
Can you remember which number was 3.4?
I can't remember. I'd have to do it again, and I really would like to do it again. But I mean, if you look at Stefan and me next to each other, it's clear. Sure. My lungs are not as big as his. Yeah. Does that matter?
If you're healthy, no, it doesn't matter. There are predominantly three things that affect your lung volumes and capacity. So your age, your sex, and your height. And there are big differences in the numbers. So let me go back to that one slide with all those volumes in. There it is. Yeah. So your tidal volume is the same. The amount you can breathe in here, this is your inspiratory reserve volume. In a man, on average, these are totally average figures, but on a man it's 3 liters. So male 3 liters, female is 2 liters. So it's a liter less how much you can breathe in there on average. Then this amount, which is the bit you need for how long you can blow notes, your vital capacity. Again, in a man it's about 4.5 liters. For a lady, it's about 3.5 liters. So
does that mean we have to work harder, or does that mean we had to? I mean, I sat next to Gerd Seifert, who was first one in the Berlin Philharmonic. He was very small, and he breathed all my places. I got quite clever as a second horn to breathe when no one else was, because I needed it, because I was a bit smaller. But he was breathing in all my spaces. So,
no, I guess the thing is though, I'm not saying that a man playing is not going to necessarily use all this as well. You're going to use the same amount of air. but you maybe need to be more efficient about what you use, and and make sure you're maximizing your potential. But there's no reason because it's not literally like you're using this entire vital capacity. So
Okay.
3.5 liters and 4.5 liters, it should be fine.
Okay, fantastic. I know we don't want to give medical advice today because Mark is not a practicing physician anymore. He's a practicing horn player. And we're so lucky to have you with all this insight. It's really just been incredible. And when you go back and read the chat, people are just in awe of you. But there's a question that's quite interesting. Would you recommend horn and wind players getting vaccinated by pneumococcal, what was that, how you pronounce it?
Pneumococcal vaccine,
PCV 113, because we inhale a lot of bacteria through our horns. Is that something you feel you could answer? Or would you rather not?
Okay, I can answer a general thing about that. So the pneumococcal vaccines, if you're in an at-risk group such as the elderly or people with sort of pre-existing conditions, then yeah, you should be getting that. With regards to horn play, I think this brings me to an important point, which is about evidence-based medicine, in that, if someone's recommending treatment, ideally it should be evidence-based and stuff. So this question about should I be taking pneumococcal vaccine because of the bacteria in my horn? No one's done a study on that.
No,
I'm pretty sure.
There's a lot of bacteria in there, but there's a lot of bacteria in everybody's horn. So just clean your horn out when you can.
Yeah, so I think with cleaning horns and stuff, yeah, you should wash your horn out every now and then. I don't do it enough, but people who have got asthma and stuff should do it more, because you can get cases where they're rare, but there are case reports of people who have allergic reactions to molds that have grown in horns. And
I know how we're spending our Saturday afternoon. We are always washing out our horns.
Exactly. So yeah.
Mark, are you done with your presentation? I'd like to.
Yes, I am. Sorry, I shall stop sharing.
I mean, a round of applause. Thank you so much for this presentation. It's been incredibly helpful. And the good thing is, if you missed any of it or didn't quite get any of it, it'll all be up. It'll all be up on the website, and we can watch it over and again and memorize it as well. Thank you so much. That was so much work that you did for us for the Horn Hangouts. We appreciate it so much. A funny question has just come in from Alice. What is the largest vital capacity you've ever seen in a patient?
Oh goodness. I can't actually remember that because remember when you're working in a hospital, it's really quite depressing, because I've got a very negative view of like lungs and disease, because I only ever saw sick people. So I never really saw massive vital capacities, because they're all low because of sickness.
Yeah. There's I have to let you go, I know, because your son James, it's his birthday.
It is. He woke me up at 5 a.m. this morning.
And did he get dressed up for it? Yesterday he had a dinosaur on. He was wearing a dinosaur. What was he wearing? What's he wearing today?
So today he was Kylo Ren from Star Wars. He had his lightsaber and everything. As
everyone should be, age 6.
Yeah, just 6 today.
Congratulations. There's a lot of clapping and thank yous coming in from all over the world. Did we? Basically, do you have any books? I mean, I've got my Bible up here, The Song and Wind, which all of you, I'm sure, know. And would you agree this is a good one?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I read that before this, and it says, yes, it's fabulous. There's great stories in there.
And then you had a. Yeah,
I've got a couple I would recommend. So there's one. Christian Steenstrup, fabulous.
Steenstrup, yes, I love Christian. He's a
fabulous teacher. Yeah. This is a great book. Which is really approachable. It's got a lot of physiology in it, but it's really, really approachable. I like this book a lot.
Is it the Talking Brass one?
Teaching Brass.
Exactly. Maybe someone could put a link up to that on the chat. That would be great. Thank you.
So that's a great book. And then also, so for the more technically minded, so this book, Respiratory Physiology by John West. This is the Farkas of respiratory physiology. Every medical student, certainly in the UK, knows about this book. It's pretty technical, but it's fabulous. If you want to really get into the nitty-gritty of it, that's a great book.
Thank you so much for that. And do people come and they'll want to know about lungs and for the rest of your life? I think there's no way around that. Or people will show you their ailments in the rehearsals and stuff like that. That just happens. I guess you.
Oh yeah, I've been sat in a rehearsal and had a bare foot just stuck in my lap. I've had various other body parts shown to me at various other parts of rehearsals, etc. So
well,
yeah, all in a medical context.
Simon D'Souza says, thank you, Mark. Fascinating and hugely helpful and beautifully presented. Michael Buckwalter says, fabulous hangout. Renee and Mark, who were drinking the Horn Hattons, said, thank you wholeheartedly. I mean, Bob Ward was watching. Oh, how lovely. Jez was says, give Bolton one more mention, Mark, before you go, says Jez.
Oh, Jez was fabulous. He was also taught by Chris. So yeah, he's great.
The Bolton Symphony Orchestra, they were watching.
Bolton Symphony Orchestra, yes.
So we were happy for that. Yeah, so thank you so much. Please make a part 2. Yeah. Oh, yes, there's a very quick question. Kevin Lopez has written, and he's a friend of mine from Colombia. And he says, because, you know, that's another question I've seen a couple of times, the altitude problems. When I was in Colombia, I could hardly play a note. I was in Bogota, which is where he lives. Can you recommend some exercises to regulate breathing in cities that have different altitude? If you go on tour.
Oh yeah, when's that gonna happen?
Can we, how does that adjust? Do you have any quick tips before we hop off here?
You can't really, because it's all about it's about the oxygenation in your environment. So you can't really do much about that.
In the concert hall in Bogota, they have oxygen backstage, literally.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a whole area of specialized respiratory medicine, the whole at altitude. And also like if you look at the physiology of free divers as well, those people that can hold their breath for like 11 minutes underwater, you know, it's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it totally is. Well, I am totally inspired. I'm going to wash my horn. I'm going to breathe. And I think the secret to all this is just breathe. Don't you think? It's
just don't overthink things. Don't just concentrate on the flow, maintaining a constant airstream. Don't worry about what your back's doing. Don't tense things. Just blow.
Thank you, Mark. Absolutely wonderful. I'd love to have you back and have a part 2 at some point. And good luck whenever you start your new job at the San Francisco Symphony. They're a fantastic horn section. I'd love to have them all on the Horn Hangouts at some point. Maybe we can do a section hangout when you get there. Everybody, thank you so much. I know if you want to write in the chat, I'm sending Mark to the chat right now, to the Facebook chat, and to our dedicated Horn Hangout viewers who are all watching. I have a little something I want to tell you about. We have been creating a new project for a new little mini concert platform, because my colleagues and I think that musicians should not be afraid of charging for their concerts online, because there's been so much free content out. I don't know what you think about this, Mark, but there's been so much free content out there, which has been wonderful in the COVID time. But all of us are at home for who knows how long, and those of us with a job, we're okay, but there are a lot of people without jobs who earn their money with making music. And it's okay now, I think, to ask for some sort of ticket charge when you're playing. We talked about this yesterday, Mark, and I ran the idea by you, and you were so positive. I was so grateful.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fabulous idea. So, you know, it's like these hangouts, you know, my son would disagree, because he's always like, Daddy, can you stop watching the Horn Hangouts and play with me? But, you know, the information from these sessions is, you know, there's real gold dust in there, you know. So yeah, people should, and the concerts you watch, they're fabulous. People should be contributing.
We will never ever charge for the Horn Hangouts, but the Berlin Phil Horn Quartet are doing a benefit concert for the Horn Hangouts online next Sunday, the 21st at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, Berlin time. And that's especially so for our Japanese viewers that they can join us. Mark, you don't have to come. It'll be 5 in the morning your time. And I'm just posting now a link in the chat for you to see, where if any of you can come, we would be absolutely thrilled. Check it out, and you are more than welcome to join us. We'll be posting some more information about it, but we're very excited about it. And I think a Horn Hangout benefits concert, we actually, to be honest, quite need it right now. But Mark, you have been so generous. Ian Bowsfield has just written in again. Hi, Mark. So Ian, it's wonderful that you joined us. Any of you Joe has said episode 30. This is really, we've been going for a long time. And I know, Mark, you've watched a lot of them. So
yeah, no, you've definitely done your civic duty.
I love my civic duty. I love my Horn Hangout friends, and we're hoping to go online next week and do some good, and then maybe this platform will help other people be inspired to actually get online and then dare to charge for their concerts and ask. It's a very minimal amount, but some people really have to live from concerts, and I mean all of us do, but some people, some jazz friends of mine, just can't basically eat right now because there's nothing.
Yeah.
So we have to do what we can to support that. So we hope you'll all come. But for now, Mark, thank you. A million thanks. Vielen Dank. Thank you from everybody watching. And we'll see you next Sunday on the Horn Hangout benefit concert. There'll be a special Horn Hangout, exclusive Horn Hangout just on that platform that day. Maybe you could get up at 5, Mark. What do you think?
I'm sure my son will try his best.
Mark, we'll keep blowing, we'll keep breathing. Thank you for this awesome hangout. You are just the best. I'm in awe of your knowledge and of your horn playing.
Oh, too kind.
Bye, everybody. See you soon. See you next week, 21st of June. Bye-bye.